Recently, The Athletic released an article listing the worst contracts currently in the league. While I was reading this, a light bulb went off, and instead of doing a contract-centric video, I decided to do something a little different instead. In this video, we'll be taking a look at some players that used to be considered star power that have regressed significantly. Now, in each and every case, there's always a chance that they could bounce back and find some redemption. But at the present time, there's definitely some room for improvement. And with that, here are 4 players who used to be considered stars that are currently struggling. Another off-season recently brought with it another opportunity for Dallas Stars owner Tom Gagliardi to blast the underperforming duo of Jamie Benn and Tyler Seguin. I think those guys signed those contracts and they've got to find a way to deliver that kind of value, he says. If they don't, it hampers the team, and that's the reality of it. They know that. And really, call this harsh or not, there's definitely some truth to what the owner had to say. Ever since the Stars made the Stanley Cup Finals in 2020, all there's really been is mediocrity. And one of the players taking the most blame, as I alluded to, is none other than Captain Jamie Benn. While he's never been considered a generational talent per se, Benn at one point in time was one of the top players in the league. Sure, he's never been flashy, but considering that he recorded 79 or more points 4 times in his career, speaks to the caliber of player he once was. After notching 87 points in a full season's play after the 2014-15 season, Benn even took home the Art Ross Trophy thereafter. And to top it all off, he's made 2 All-Star Game appearances. However, after being 1 season removed from signing his most recent contract, that's paying around $9.5 million a season, Benn's production began to decline from there. Beginning in the 2018-19 campaign, Benn began to tread the waters of mediocrity, and hasn't exactly been earning his 8-year, $76 million deal. Last season, for instance, Benn came dangerously close to recording the same point total as he did during his rookie year, with 46 points. And the season before, the forward averaged his worst shooting percentage yet, with an 8.9. In comparison to his teammates, for example, the 8.9 put him at 12th out of the entire roster. But even in more troubling fashion, Benn ranked 4th in total shots taken. According to the Stars owner, though, Benn seemed to be completely aware of his shortcomings and has been trying to remedy the situation by doing everything that he can to condition throughout this offseason. One of the cornerstone players that helped put the Hawks' former dynasty in motion was none other than Captain Sirius himself, Jonathan Toews. Toews, who was taken 3rd overall in 2006, was one of the top picks that helped formulate the future for Chicago. And really, considering everything he's accomplished in his career, we can easily say that yes, Toews did exceed the hype for a very long time. He was a Conn Smythe winner of 2010, Selke recipient of 2013, and most importantly, he's a 3-time Stanley Cup champ. Unfortunately though, after taking some time off to battle CIRS, Toews didn't come back as the same player. And while we're all glad he's healthy, it's pretty obvious that last season was a rough one for the captain. Following 71 games played and only 37 points to show for it, Toews finished with the worst point total out of his entire career. In all honesty though, even before his illness struck, Toews began to slow down in 2016. If we look at his point totals, shooting percentage, and his ice time, they all began to show signs of inconsistency. Surprisingly, if we take a look at his shooting percentage, it was actually worse throughout the 2017-18 season than last campaign. This tells us that he was already on the decline then, but he still managed to have a comeback year the next go-around, where he averaged nearly a point per game. While he is 34 years old, there's players such as Ovechkin notching 50 goals a season, and Chris Letang recording 68 points from the back end, both at 35. So yes, he is getting older, but we're seeing here more recently, time and time again, that the mid-30s aren't always the stopping point in the league today. Known as one of the best snipers of his generation to come, Phil Kessel came into the NHL as an enigma, meaning that despite his eating habits and lackluster attitude when it came to physical conditioning, Kessel continued to tickle the twine with ease. And in 6 different instances, Kessel was able to produce 30 or more goals in a season. And after making his way to the Steel City, as most of us know, Kessel was the extra piece that the Penguins needed and helped Sidney Crosby and company win back-to-back cups in the Burgh. Some have even went so far to say that Kessel was even robbed of the Conn Smythe in 2016. However, once Kessel made the Arizona desert his new home, spectators haven't seen a glimpse of that same player. Sure, it's obvious that Kessel hasn't had the same level of talent to play with, but when you look at his stats, the decline is substantial. Well, you can tell he's been helpful on the power play for the Yotes. Most of his points have been helpers. And if we were considering a known playmaker, for example, this wouldn't be such an issue. But Kessel's paid to primarily score goals. That's always how it's been. However, last season, for instance, despite playing a full campaign, Kessel only mustered up 8 goals, and his shooting percentage was less than 1/4 of what it was in the season before, with a 4.6. This is the same player that was 5th league-wide for goals in 2012. One has to wonder if Kessel's priority of the Ironman streak took its toll on his production. Currently a free agent, the 3-time All-Star could still make a comeback in the latter stages of his career. Speaking of the Athletic article, well, Tyler Seguin and his contract were at the top of the list. And while we're really not here to dissect all things contractual, we're briefly going to cover how its worth hasn't lined up with Seguin's production. When Tyler Seguin was traded to Dallas, the idea was that the former 2nd overall pick would become the face of the franchise. And for a while anyways, that was pretty much the case. Along with Jamie Benn, Seguin met the expectations that Stars fans and management had for the forward. After Seguin was given a $78 million contract, however, his offensive numbers plummeted, despite an impressive 6 consecutive seasons in which he put up 70 or more points. Seguin struggled thereafter. One obstacle holding him back from consistency, though, has definitely been the injury he sustained in 2020, and the recovery from it he underwent thereafter. As frustrating as this has been for Seguin, the Stars are and have been relying on him to produce. Last season, despite being the highest paid player on the team, Seguin finished 4th in scoring. And while the plus-minus stat isn't everything, it does reveal that the player who was once given Selke votes twice in his career struggled immensely to keep puck possession. His giveaway-takeaway ratio was nearly 2-1, and a sizable contrast to how he's done for most of his career in that department. Hopefully though, for Seguin, at 30 years of age, with a new bench boss in town, he'll be able to revitalize his game this coming season.